Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Mr. Blue podcast. I am your host, Mr. Blu-ray. And this one I've been wanting to talk about for a little bit. Now with the FNAF movie out now, I want to talk about how relevant the FNAF movie news has been in the last 3 years. Because honestly, guys, let's face it, the amount of FNAF movie news we've gotten since since Blumhouse got the rights, and we haven't there hasn't been that much big news or relevancy with it. So I figure it's time we go back and talk about how, again, FNAF has really peaked in 2020 again, with so many good things, and including Christmas 2020, when Scott was announcing, a lot of big changes with the movie, and then I believe it was last year when Jason Blum kept saying we are dangerously close, I believe it now. So yeah, I want to say the relevancy of the news kind of went back to when Daco was firing things up again, when he talked about how the experience is going to be like the first game, and Scott wants to make the movie for both us, the fans, and the general standard audience, which we all know the news by now. Even Scott admitted it recently, this movie is for the fans. Sorry to anybody who doesn't know about the franchise itself. It's just until you become a fan, you just not gonna understand all the references that goes on in the movie, right? Oh my gosh. And of course, sometimes some things do work in a movie form better than the original source material. Of course, the greatest example is Marvel Studios, right? Oh my gosh, they go way beyond the comics, even though, they do bring up some references, right? Even, they bring up, the comic book accurate style suits, right? Anyways, I just remember, again, Daco was hyping up the movie again, oh my gosh. He almost had me convinced, and I'm pretty sure that he was smart on his part here too. He pretty much had me convinced that we could have gotten it in 2021. Because I me personally, guys, not watching a Blumhouse movie, I had no idea they had strict budgets, but they film so fast and all that. Oh man. I mean, I knew about them being partnered with Universal, right? Oh man, I feel besides Daco, I feel more of the talk and the hype of the movie was when FNAF VHSs were becoming so popular, analog horror. Of course, it all started with Squimpus McGrimpus, and then others were filling in his shoes, Meme Bear and all those other great creators, and you got the Walton Files. I haven't watched all of them, but I know that they're pretty good. The Walton Files are pretty good. Those VHS tapes pretty much gave us hope on what the FNAF movie should look like, and it did in a few ways. Even when Mike was looking at the training tape, and then it had those little glitches, oh, that's fan service right there. Oh my gosh, they need to do more for the sequels, right? More analog horror. If they could, if Scott and Jason could dive deep into that, in the sequels, that, oh my gosh, that'd be so cool. Oh, it'd be so cool. I do believe. Oh man, when did was it early 2021 when we found out that apparently director Chris Columbus wasn't going to direct it anymore, because I think he was signed on latched onto the project when Blumhouse got the rights, but then years later he didn't want to do it anymore. I wonder what his his version of the movie would have looked like, because remember, he produced the Night at the Museum trilogy, and we have a good idea on like what that could have looked like with his version, right? Like, man, I am happy that like director Emma Tammy executed so well. Like, you could definitely tell she's done her homework. Like, she really cares, and I really want to talk to her so bad about this. Like, oh man, Emma Tammy, if you're watching this, like, oh man, like, it'd be such like an honor to talk to you. Seriously, like, man, I've seen a couple other YouTubers who had the privilege to talk to you. So like, oh my gosh, just keep on doing what you're doing. I hope you remain the just the main director for the trilogy, really, and like and hopefully for future projects, right? Like, and who knows? I mean, hopefully you could get a role. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, sometimes directors, they put themselves into their own stuff, right? So like, feel free to make a cameo. Maybe a main character or something like that. Like, whatever you want to do, you're the director, and whatever Scott and Jason decide. Like, oh my gosh. Oh man. 2021. That was the summer, guys, if you guys remember. I still support Scott with his decisions that he's made those 2 summers ago. I don't think the movie has died down, like, sure, we gotten some little like tidbits and all that, like it's just, oh my gosh, with what happened to Scott and what he was going through, and like what his family had to go through too. Like, gosh, that is not cool. Like, again, cancel culture, you cannot take out Scott. Nope. Never will. He is a grown man. He can do whatever the heck he wants, so don't get on him. Okay? Get on our level. Now, 2022, last year, again, this was, I believe this was like early 2022 when Jason kept saying like, oh, we're dangerously close. And then Christmas time. This couldn't have been like a better Christmas present. Like, when we got the news, the casting news, right? And, of course, the filming news too, right? When we found out that Josh Hutcherson and Matthew Lillard were like going to be part of this, like, oh my gosh, like, so many mixed emotions that day, and so many YouTubers were talking about. Of course, I went to Daco because he's pretty much my main guy for like when it comes to like talking about specific stuff. Like, of course, he talks all FNAF news, right? Man, like, when this thing was coming together this year, guys, when they started, when was it, February 1st? Oh man. When they start principal photography, and when they said, what was that name on the cake? Was it like Project Cupcake or whatever? Like it was a code name, right? We all knew it was a code name. And of course it showed like a diner scene, like at the behind the scenes, right? Like we had no idea what was going on, right? Oh man, they hadn't exactly announced all of the cast members, right? Just like some of the pivotal ones, Oh man, do you guys remember the biggest rumor that happened when the FNAF movie got announced? Like when Blumhouse got the rights, Jamie Lee Curtis, like, sure, she loves the franchise, but people kept saying like, oh, she's gonna be in the movie, like. That's not true. I mean, if we could get her in this franchise, that could be pretty cool. And of course, the meme man himself, Jack Black, he would not stop talking about, like, man, he's a fan like us guys. Like, you can obviously tell, but like, oh my gosh, like, anytime he talks about FNAF, like, his face lights up, and then it makes your face want to light up, like, oh my gosh, like, oh man, Scott, you gotta get not just like, Jamie Lee Curtis, but you gotta get our boy Jack Black in this franchise. Like, try to get him in the sequel if you can, And, as far as with Jamie Lee Curtis, I don't know. I feel like maybe she could have played the relative in this movie, right? Like, because I honestly, I've never heard of this actress before in my life, and just seeing her like portraying like the aunt in the movie, it's just made me hate her even more, like instantly like that. So, but again, Scott, if you have any big plans for like if you're gonna bring in Jamie Lee Curtis for the sequels, like make her a good guy, right? Like make her have like a mysterious side, right? Like we don't know what her character would be, right? Like, oh man, I could think of one or two ways of like what character Jamie Lee Curtis should play. Um, oh my gosh, what? Oh my gosh, I just thought of this now, guys. Oh my gosh, this might be crazy, but like, just bear with me, guys. Just think about it though. What if Jamie Lee Curtis actually played William Afton's wife? Think about it. We have never seen or heard anything about Mrs. Afton, right? In the games, in the books, nothing. Just the dad and the three kids, right? But what happened to the mother? I have a pretty good theory. Like, whenever this episode of the podcast comes out, hopefully, well, I'm pretty sure me and Tegan will talk about this, like, when it comes to the live stream. This is a little snippet for you guys. What if William's wife left him because she found out, like, she knew what her husband was doing with these animatronics and what he did to the kids or the remnants or whatever, and like she like divorced him and all that, and unfortunately she couldn't gain custody of her kids, right? Oh man. I mean, I'm sure she would have like taken Michael in a heartbeat, because Evan was the one to go first, because, you know, Bite of 83. And Elizabeth Afton, she gets scooped by baby. We know this. So Michael could have been like the only child left. But, I mean, again, maybe she couldn't have any other choice. And like, maybe William couldn't have custody of his kid either, well, because he hated Michael's guts then. And, you know, this brings up a big theory, which we will talk about. You know, a possibility that Michael could have been adopted by Henry, you know? That would explain a lot of things. I don't want to get too deep into this. Like, we'll talk more about it. My gosh. Yeah, just anytime I would hear big FNAF news in the last 3 years, like, oh my gosh, this gave me hope and potential. Like, in the last 3 years, I thought, oh, maybe the next year we'll get the movie, you know? Like, oh my gosh. Now that, like, again, the movie is out, hopefully this movie leaves another fresh, organic starting point for Scott. Like, hopefully it doesn't take him another, like, 8 years to make the sequel. But of course, Blumhouse, they do have other projects coming out, so, Megan 2.0 is coming out, what, in 2 years' time? I believe that's the same time when maybe FNAF 2 will come out, but they're starting, pre-production at least on number 2, right? So, I mean, who knows? Who knows if Blumhouse will change their schedule? Because, hey, if Scott wants to release one movie a year, again, that's all up to him, you know? Like, he gets to decide what he wants to do. Again, if this last movie gave him a fresh, organic starting point for the sequel, the possibilities are endless. Like we know where to go with number 2. It is a prequel. I don't want them to continue after the first one, because, again, this is supposed to be the original trilogy of the games. 2, 1, 3, right? And then, again, 3 is the big send-off, and I'm honestly pretty convinced that Scott wants to make more movies after this trilogy. Like, yeah, just give him like after this trilogy, give him like a couple of years to think about, like, hash out the next trilogy, the sequel trilogy of FNAF, and start working on those. 4, 5, and 6, and then Security Breach. Again, if Security Breach was to be a movie, I don't think it could be a separate movie. I think you could put that in FNAF 6. Like, you could kind of have like two movies in one. Like, what if the first part, the movie starts with an entrepreneur and, focusing on the, what do you call them? The scrap animatronics, like the salvage animatronics, and then you have Henry trapping all four of them, and maybe it will say like maybe 5 years later type of thing. Like, we enter Security Breach, enter Gregory, and see where that sets things off. Because again, guys, I believe what the story Scott was trying to hash out when he made these games, like, the way that he put it in this movie, oh my gosh, like, it makes so much more sense. So, like, I understand if he's going to change more things, like, that would help a lot, too, like, I'm happy that, like, the movie doesn't change my perspective on the games, like, themselves. Like, I can still enjoy both the games, the books, and the movie, It's kind of like, I can't believe I'm comparing this, but, like, just bear with me again, guys. It's kind of like Ninjago, right? Like, you have the main series, the main TV series, but you also have the spin-off movie, which is not canon to the series. It's just its own thing. It's part of the LCU, but it's not part of the main Ninjago timeline, right? But after, like, starting season 8, they are Ninjago movie inspired, right? Anyways, I just wanted to throw that in there, guys. Yeah, again, like, as a fan, like, I feel like this clears up a lot of answers, like, and again, for general movie-going audiences, too, like, yeah, they don't necessarily have to play the games and read the books, right? Like, they could be fans by, enjoying the movies, like, my brother, he is a diehard, Sonic fan. Of course, if any of you guys know this, and if you're fans of his, like, I'm left to believe that he's played every game, and, like, the Sonic movies that came out, like, I know that he has spotted all the references, the Easter eggs, like, I'm not saying that it's a requirement for any, any representation like that, like when it comes to, again, like, novels, video games, books, like, if you just want to watch a movie or a TV show to get better context, that's fine. And if that makes you more interested in, checking out this novel or this comic book or this video game, like, you're hooked, right? Because, I was a little late to the party. Like, at least, I understood this story very well, and 8 years later, like, man, it is such a good relief, because even I knew what was going on, but, like, again, if I was new to the franchise, I would have no clue what was going on. And to the general audiences, I'm not saying us FNAF fans are better than you. It's just, like, again, like, if you're curious about the movie, if you want to see that first, go ahead. We're not going to judge, okay? Oh, man. Seriously, I would hate to be that guy. I'd be like, oh, you haven't played the games or read the books? Oh, what a loser. Like, nah. Let's not get to that point at all, guys, right? Like, if someone who is, genuinely curious about the FNAF movie, if they want to see that first instead of playing the games, like, that's fine. Don't give them a hard time about it. Jeez. Like, maybe 14-year-old me could have been like, oh, you did play the games? What a nerd! Like, oh my gosh. Oh, man. What else can I talk about relating to this? Yeah. You don't have to catch up with everything to be a fan. About anything. Like again, you guys can. If you want to watch this thing first, go ahead. Like again with Marvel, I don't read every comic book that's out there, but I do understand like some of the little nods or their Easter eggs. Again, this is just that one example. Like you could be a fan of Marvel by watching the movies and watching the Disney Plus series and all that stuff. Like, yeah, um, yeah. I'm excited for the future of FNAF. I can't wait where this goes with the sequels. Um, Again, if this original trilogy series goes well, then I think Scott he might reconsider making another trilogy. I feel like that's perfect. Just have two trilogies. Like have one of 2, 1, and 3, and then you got the next trilogy, which is 4, 5, and 6, and I'll add a little bit of Security Breach or however much lore that Scott wants to put in there, because I still love Security Breach. Like that was the best Christmas ever, guys. Like besides having Spider-Man No Way Home and Book of Boba Fett, like I definitely enjoy watching Markiplier play the game. Like, oh my gosh, like come on guys, it's not that bad. It's a fun game. That's where all the great memes come from, right? Yeah. So, like I said, I just don't see Security Breach being a separate movie. Like you could tie that in with FNAF 6, because we all know by now that the kind of like the secret hidden lair, if you will, when Freddy says to Gregory, like, there used to be a pizzeria, and then they built the Pizzaplex on top of it. Like that's Pizzeria Simulator's location. But like Funtime Freddy, he's still in his sister location form. Like sure, he's all burnt and broken, but like he still looks perfect. Like again in number 6, he's all withered, but like again, where do you explain the continuity? I'm pretty sure Scott with his movies, like he wants to fix that continuity error, which is fine. Like I'm fine with that. Like, however, Molten Freddy is like you know what, just do what you got to do, Scott. Like I'll give you high praise for it, man. Yeah. Again, I just really don't know what to say, but other than like, I am excited for a future Blu-ray release. Again, I believe it's January 22nd. I looked it up. If it's true, then that's gonna be a day one buy for me. I know for a fact. Like, jeez, this movie, guys. I did not expect it to get this big. Still, even if the movie didn't make a lot of money, and I still don't care what the critics say. Like, you know what? I don't care. I'm a fan. I want to see a good movie, and I enjoyed it. I still think it's a perfect 10 out of 10 movie, and from what I'm hearing, especially today, it's still dominating the box office, guys. Like, oh my gosh, like, I had no idea how big, like, more big this is becoming. Like, oh my gosh, like, as a FNAF fan / FNAF veteran, like, it makes me so happy to hear, like, we're finally out here, guys. Let's just say 9 years in the making now, almost a decade. Ever since the very first game, man, Scott has given us so much, and this is a perfect fan support / service movie for us. And personally, from the bottom of my heart, Scott, I'm speaking on everybody on behalf of the FNAF community. Thank you so much for putting your heart and soul into this thing. We could definitely tell that you've put a lot of your heart and soul dedication into this film, and yeah, Hollywood is just they would frick it up. They would frick up this movie. I love the practical effects. I love that, again, how there's just little uses of CG here and there, you know, for the necessary purposes. Like, oh my gosh, and the stunt performances, the acting, the sets. Oh man, the score, like, oh my gosh. You guys know which score I'm talking about, like the intro, you know, of the movie. Like, oh, I can't get it out of my head. It's so good. I'm still trying to look for a physical CD version of the soundtrack, and if there's one out there, I better get my hands on it fast. But yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say. So thank you so much for listening to this special episode of the podcast, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Please turn the post notification bell, share my content if you haven't already. And tell me in the comments, guys, what do you think of the FNAF movie? And what do you think of the FNAF franchise in general, like as a whole? Like, what do you think? Like, what do you love more? Do you love the games more? Do you love the books more? Or again, better yet, like, do you love the movie more? Again, we're all FNAF fans here. We're not gonna judge you guys. Like, we respect everybody's opinions, right? All right. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for buying me. The Lord be with you guys. All this up, guys. Peace out, guys, and remember, you guys are superstars, and I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow on the live stream with my boy Tegan. All right, you have a good night, guys. Bye.